Forget everything you thought you knew about medieval warfare. We're about to expose how the ingenious and often horrific tactics of nightly sieges are still fundamentally shaping modern military strategy, from cyber warfare to entrenched urban combat. You'll never look at a castle or a modern battlefield the same way again. Picture this. The year is 1204, and the walls of Constantinople tower above an army that's been camped outside for months. Inside, thousands of people are slowly starving. Outside, engineers are calculating angles, building towers, undermining walls. Fast forward to 2025, and the scene has changed, but the fundamental calculus remains eerily the same. Modern militaries still isolate, still wait, still probe for weakness. The weapons have evolved from trebuchets to precision-guided missiles, but the blueprint? It was written in blood on medieval battlefields centuries ago. For thousands of years, humanity has refined the art of breaking what cannot be easily broken. The siege, that most patient and brutal form of warfare, represents something profound about human conflict. It's not the glory of the charge or the heroism of the open field. It's the cold mathematics of attrition, the psychological grinding down of an opponent's will, and the methodical application of pressure until something somewhere finally cracks. The medieval siege wasn't simply about building a bigger catapult or, a taller ladder. It was a complete military ecosystem that required engineers, diplomats, spies, and logisticians, all working in concert for months or even years. When Richard the Lionheart laid siege to Acre in 1191, or when the Mongols surrounded Baghdad in 1258, they were executing operations of stunning complexity. They were cutting supply lines, negotiating with potential defectors, managing disease in their own camps, maintaining morale among troops who might not see battle for months, and constantly calculating whether the prize was, actually worth the cost. These same calculations, actually dominate modern warfare in ways that would make a medieval siege master nod in recognition when military planners today discuss, say, area denial, strategic encirclement, or even isolation of the battle space. They're speaking a language that would be immediately comprehensible to a knight who spent 3 years trying to starve out a French castle. The fundamental principles remain, really. Isolate your enemy from reinforcement and resupply, degrade their ability to resist through constant pressure, exploit every weakness in their defences, and above all, break their will to continue fighting. Consider the evolution of fortification itself. Medieval castle builders understood something crucial. That defense is about creating multiple layers of failure for an attacker. The outer wall, the moat, the inner wall, the keep. Each represented a separate problem to solve, a separate expenditure of resources and lives. Modern military installations, really follow the same philosophy as their historical counterparts, with hardened bunkers, layered air defense systems, underground facilities, and, of course, redundant communication networks. The 2023 urban battles, they demonstrated this vividly. Cities become like medieval fortresses, with defenders using every building, every street, and every underground tunnel as part of an integrated defensive system. The arms race between offense and defense that defined medieval warfare, honestly, still drives military innovation today. When trebuchets became more powerful, walls got thicker and angled, and when cannons appeared, fortifications went lower and even adopted star-shaped designs to deflect projectiles. In 2025, we see the same dynamic at play. As anti-tank missiles become more sophisticated, armor becomes more reactive and modular. And as cyber attacks grow more dangerous, networks, well, they become more segmented and resilient. The game remains the same. Anticipate your enemy's next move and build accordingly. But perhaps the most underappreciated aspect of siege warfare, then and now, is logistics. A medieval army besieging a castle was, in essence, running a small city in hostile territory. They needed food, water, fodder for horses, ammunition for siege engines, medical supplies, and, of course, replacement equipment. So they needed to manage waste, prevent disease, maintain discipline, and keep supply lines open across potentially hundreds of miles. When Edward I besieged Stirling Castle in 1304, the logistical operation was as impressive as the military one. Thousands of tons of supplies moved across Scotland to sustain an army for months. Modern militaries face these same challenges, only now they're amplified by technology. The conflicts between 2022 and 2024 showed just how vulnerable supply lines remain, even with satellite communications and precision logistics. An army with drones and missiles is still an army that needs fuel, ammunition, spare parts, and food. The tooth-to-tail ratio, combat troops versus support personnel, is even more extreme now than in medieval times. For every soldier on the front line, there might be 5 or 10 people maintaining the supply chain that keeps them fighting. This is siege warfare at a continental scale. Whoever maintains their supply lines longest wins. Then there's the psychological dimension, which medieval commanders understood intimately. A siege wasn't just about physical destruction, it was about breaking the defender's hope. Medieval armies would, catapult diseased animals over walls, display captured knights in full view of the castle, spread rumors of relief armies being destroyed, and conduct these elaborate shows of force just to demonstrate the futility of resistance. The goal was always to prompt a surrender before the bloody, costly work of an actual assault became necessary. In 2025, we call this information warfare, but honestly, the principle is identical. Modern militaries wage psychological campaigns through social media, targeted propaganda, demonstrations of overwhelming force, and the strategic release of information designed to demoralize opponents and their civilian populations. The medieval practice of hiring so-called inside men to open gates has, evolved into sophisticated cyber operations that penetrate enemy networks. The informant who could reveal a castle's weaknesses has become, in a sense, the intelligence operative mapping out the digital infrastructure of a target. The objective, you see, remains unchanged. Find a way inside without having to break down the front door. Urban warfare in the 21st century provides, honestly, the clearest parallel to medieval sieges. When modern forces enter a city held by determined defenders, they're essentially attacking a castle on a massive scale. Every building becomes a potential strong point, every intersection a kill zone, and every basement a bunker. The techniques used: isolating neighborhoods, establishing supply routes, clearing buildings room by room, using surveillance to identify defensive positions, would be, well, recognizable to a knight who participated in the siege of Jerusalem or the fall of Constantinople. The technology has changed, but the tactical problem of dislodging a prepared defender from urban terrain remains, honestly, fundamentally similar. Recent conflicts have demonstrated that even with precision munitions and advanced surveillance, capturing fortified urban areas requires the same grinding, attritional approach that medieval siege warfare pioneered. You still need to cut off the enemy from reinforcement. You still need to maintain your own supply lines under fire. And you still need to manage the psychological toll on your own forces while trying to break the enemy's will. And you still face the same grim calculation. Is the objective worth the cost in lives and resources? As we look toward the future of warfare, the lessons of medieval sieges become even more relevant, as conflicts increasingly involve fortified zones, urban strongholds, and protracted campaigns rather than rapid maneuvers. Military planners are rediscovering principles that knights understood instinctively. Patience, logistics, psychological operations, multi-layered defenses, and the importance of intelligence. These aren't innovations of modern warfare. They're the foundation of siegecraft, refined over centuries, and simply adapted to new technologies. The next time you see footage of a modern military operation, look for the patterns. Look for the encirclement, the supply line attacks, the psychological pressure, the systematic reduction of defensive capabilities. You're not watching something new. You're watching the latest chapter in a story that began when the first human decided that waiting outside the walls was preferable to dying on them. Understanding our past doesn't just satisfy curiosity. It illuminates our present and prepares us for what's coming. The tactics that knights used to breach castle walls are still teaching us how to navigate the complex, dangerous world of 21st century conflict. If this journey through time opened your eyes to the unexpected connections between medieval warfare and modern strategy, subscribe to Through Time. Share this story with someone who needs to understand that history isn't dead. It's the blueprint for everything happening right now. The past isn't behind us. It's all around us, waiting to be recognized.